Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. Welcome to Mental Wellness for the Culture. I am your host, Belinda Gordon Battle. I am a clinical therapist that is highly excited to have so many of my colleagues on tonight to talk about a very sensitive, challenging topic that our community seems to have to grasp at this time. This seems to be the time, this seems to be the place. Every event I have attended in the last 6 weeks or so, this topic, the topic of domestic violence, has come up at that table. It has been an ongoing conversation. It is something that's in our newspapers. It is, if you read the newspapers, it is on social media. It is in the news. And we want to make sure that we are having a conversation with people in our community that can provide support, offer healing, and give us direction. I'm excited to have an amazing sponsor tonight. The Center for Equitable Access and Treatment of Trauma, also known as Ceatt, has agreed to be our partner as we have this discussion because we understand that domestic violence, mental health, trauma, and recovery from trauma are at the forefront of the healing of our community. So we would like to welcome Ceatt and all of the Ceatt partners and to say thank you again for understanding that this is an important topic. We also would like to thank the culture. The culture always provides a platform, a safe space for us to have these discussions. So Mental Wellness for the Culture, we are celebrating the culture as we move forward and having these conversations. At this point, I'd like for you to welcome our amazing experts, our panelists, the ones that can share and the ones that can give us direction. I would like each of them to just say their names and to tell us why. Why is this subject? Why is this topic? Why is it so important for you to speak out about it? Starting with Sylvia Pauling.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. This subject is extremely important to me, one, because I've been working in the area of domestic violence for 30 plus years. I started in a rape crisis center as a college intern. But most important, because after many years of working in the field, my family was impacted by domestic violence, and my sister was murdered by an acquaintance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And I know you have shared that story with many people and offered that opportunity for them to heal. And I appreciate you for being here tonight. Thank you. Yes. Jeleine Fertil, please share.
Hey, good evening, everyone. This is such a great cause, and any opportunity that I have to support, I am there. I have many years in working in a healthcare setting, and we know that the hospital has to facilitate that healing environment. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to a great discussion, and I am happy to be here.
Absolutely. I'm glad you're here and that you're making that connection with our physical health through the hospitals and places like that where we often find our perpetrators, but we also find our victims in those spaces. Thank you so much. Delphine Gervais.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Delphine Gervais. I am the CEO and founder of Breakthrough Care and Resource Center. This topic is one that touches upon different spaces. And as someone similar to Sylvia, who started my profession as an intern at a women's shelter, working with children and offering different interventions with different populations of groups throughout the years, whether it's someone who's come in direct contact with domestic violence or intimate partner violence, or whether it's the community at large. This is a conversation that I'm glad that we're able to have tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of that conversation. Kim Wright.
Hello, I'm Kim Wright. I am a survivor of domestic violence. Just a brief synopsis of what happened. I was married to my husband for 8 years. He became progressively violent. Initially, he was nice, very charming. We had children. He was excellent with the children. He was very providing. Uh, the abuse, it started with being controlling, then it became physically abusive. It was psychologically abusive. Initially, I was shamed, very shamed. I didn't tell anyone about the abuse. I felt guilty because I didn't tell anyone. And then with the control, I was very nervous at times. And then my self esteem was crushed. And after that, the violence became progressively worse. And I thought that, the love, all he needed was love and everything would get better. But it didn't. And the physical abuse was too bad. And to the point where I had to rush out of the home. And when I did that, I did get a restraining order. The judge told me it was a permanent restraining order. And the judge made him get out of the house and me and the children stay. He broke in the home and he shot me in the head with a .357 Magnum and he killed himself. Me surviving, I had to learn how to walk again, how to talk again. And then I went back to work, took care of my children, and I gave myself to the Lord. And that's when I started thriving. I got advocates to work with me. I had a therapist work with me. My church family worked with me. And I started exercising. And all of these things I needed. And I had a team of doctors that were very supportive. Everything was non-judgmental. No one judged me. And I thought, I was so ashamed. I thought if I told someone that they would judge me. But it never happened. They were just so supportive.
Yes. And that's what we want. That's what we want. We want to create a supportive environment. Kim, your story, I've heard your story before. I think I met you maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I've always been in awe of your story. And every time I hear it, I realize that I miss something because I stop and I begin to process the balance that you actually are describing. And this time I realized that there was something new that you said to me that I had not heard before, but I've heard the story.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for us to realize that your life story is valuable and that you're sharing it with us so that we can grow and we can learn and that we can make adjustments as individuals, but also make adjustments in our society. One of the things I've learned is that 1 out of 3 women and 1 out of 6 men experience domestic violence. No 2 situations are ever the same. Jeleine, I think about you being in the hospital setting and you may see survivors come into that space. You may also witness victims that come into that space. And I think about the question that we often hear people say, why doesn't she just leave? Why doesn't he just leave? What are some of your thoughts? What have you heard and felt observed when people come into your space that are dealing with domestic violence? And the question is, just leave.
Yeah, just leave. We see a lot of them may be afraid. And when they do come in a hospital, as we mentioned, we need to facilitate the healing environment and that safety, right? And also show that support. We could talk about private screening, giving them that safe space where they can use the opportunity to, to disclose, right? And get the help that they need. Because in a hospital, we could diagnose and do a lot of direct clinical intervention, but it doesn't stop there, right? We need to, as far as linkage to care and getting other individuals involved, even after they are diagnosed, to make that connection, And also letting them know that the support, we are here to support. You are not alone, you know, and we here. And it's
Yeah.
one step at a time.
One step at a time. Absolutely. When you talk about steps, I'm thinking about prior steps, trauma, generational cycles that occur when our children, young people, are observers of domestic violence. What are your thoughts about children trauma, domestic violence cycles, Sylvia, when it comes to working with our young people in the community, but also working with perpetrators and those that have been affected by domestic violence?
So I'm going to start with my work with perpetrators, um, because in doing that, doing the work with perpetrators, it can be extremely difficult if that individual is not ready to admit, um, and understand that they are a perpetrator. Um, and so with that comes some very intense work that is required because, one, oftentimes we see perpetrators, abusers, whatever title you want to put, given court orders and things like that to receive treatment. But oftentimes that treatment is not appropriate. It tends to be, and especially when it's coming from judges in family courts, such as child welfare systems and places like that, it tends to be anger management. And so, what we know is that anger management is not the appropriate intervention for a perpetrator of domestic violence. And again, when you begin to look at the behavior, these individuals target their intimate partners. And folks that have anger management problems tend to have it across the board. It doesn't just occur when they get home in that intimate setting. And so while trauma, learned behavior, all of those things are factors. I've worked with many perpetrators, most who were men, whose life stories, their journeys are full of very traumatic experiences, whether that's street violence, whether that's learned behavior. They saw their father beat their mother, so they began to believe that was what was going on. So, yes, I believe all of it is a factor. But I think when individuals are ready, being ready, one, acknowledge that their behavior is not acceptable. Then you can work through some of the trauma, all of those things that are factors and need to be looked at. Some I've worked with fathers who did not even identify the trauma that they've experienced along the way, gunshot, being shot, all of those things. All of these things may coexist together, but they're still not the cause of it.
Yes. And when you say call it what it is, what is that? What exactly are we calling it?
We have to begin to acknowledge that individuals that commit domestic violence, whether that's abuse in the home or intimate partner violence, because the words are now being used interchangeably.
They are.
So we're saying domestic violence and we're saying intimate partner violence. And now, so they could be seen as one and the same, but being able to actually say that. So even in my work with perpetrators, and again, I've mainly worked with men who are perpetrators, but in saying to them that is abusive behavior,
Yes.
and so that they can understand. So
Yes.
not sugarcoating it. So
Mhm.
when you're, and it could be, it's not always that physical. It's not always physical. It could be emotional. It
Mhm.
could be mental. It could be psychological. It could be cheating. That
Yes.
someone, all of those things are abusive behavior. So getting that person to understand your behavior is toxic, and that's what I mean by calling it what it is. And I think we
Absolutely.
have to call it what it is, not just in a legal uh, frame, but
Mhm.
we have to call it what it is in church settings, in
Yes.
communities, in fraternities, and we have
Mhm.
to begin to call it what it actually is.
Absolutely. I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. We have to normalize this language because we know this is occurring in our community, and we cannot be afraid to use those terms, those words. We cannot be afraid to say perpetrator, abuser, domestic violence, intimate partner violence. And the newest one, which maybe I missed when this came out, but now it's everywhere, is femicide. Am I saying that right? Femicide.
Femicide.
Femicide. And I had not heard that word during my studies long time ago, but now I hear it often. Have you heard that before, Kim? Femicide.
No.
So does anyone on the panel want to share with Kim and our community, what is femicide?
I mean, I'm going to use my context clues and my
Okay.
studies of circa 1980s and 90s education. The word femme, French word for female, and the side, anything that ends with that is harm done or the killing of. So it makes sense that that would also be introduced to it, because to Sylvia's point, we need to call it what it is. This is harmful behaviors. This is dangerous behaviors. It comes at a cost to the individual, those that are in their family, as well as the community at large. It's a community health issue. So the word femicide, I think, lends an added weight to it.
It
Not
does.
that any of the other terms did not, but I think this makes it more of a community health issue. This is not just a person in their household problem. This is our church problem. This is our police department problem. This is our hospital problem.
Yes. And I agree. That's what I understand from the word also. And I think that's why it's so important for us to add this to our lexicon and make sure that we are using this word femicide also, because it's about the entire society. Domestic violence does not just affect those two people involved, engaged. It affects the entire community, the children, the people in that home, that live in that home, the people in that community. My first encounter with domestic violence that I can recall occurred next door to my home. My godmother, my godfather lived next door to me. And when I say I was at their home every day and had no clue at all that one day my godfather would shoot and kill my godmother in that same home. And to this day, I cannot give you an example of where anything was out of line. My godfather loved me, adored me. I thought he loved and adored his wife and all of his children. And I cannot tell you how I carry that with me when I interact and have exchanges with women in our community, because the silence is something that I hear. And we are often so silent about the things that are occurring in our home. Talk to me about what's predictable. What can we predict? And what is also preventable? What can we see? What can we feel? What can we actually use as a gauge to allow us in the community to know that domestic violence of any type may be going on between 2, 3 people? Because now we have couples.
One thing that you might notice is if she gets a phone call, she'll jump and she'll get up and move away.
Yeah.
That's one telltale sign. because she's very nervous,
Very nervous.
yes,
Yes.
that he's calling.
Mm-hmm.
And another one is she'll have everyone away from the home. She always make excuses, that no one can come to the home.
Why is that, Kim? Why is no one allowed to come to the home?
Because he's very controlling.
Mm-hmm.
And he tries to get away family and friends, and he
Yes.
wants to isolate her
Mm-hmm.
in the home
In the home. Yeah.
so he can have total control.
Absolutely. So one thing that we're looking for is that nervousness, that jumpiness, when he is in the room or when he's reaching out, communicating. And at the same time, we see signs where distancing
Yeah.
the survivor or the
Yes.
victim from family and friends and social circles. Yeah. Those are
And
two good
she
ones.
might have a flat affect. She might be more sullen, more
flat-
reserved. Yeah.
Yeah. What are some signs you've seen, Jeleine?
Yeah, just continue what Kim said. That's why we believe private screening is very important in the hospital.
Yeah.
And sometimes, let's just say if patient needs to, for example, a urine test, right? And it would remove them from, the individual and give them the opportunity to have a one-on-one with the nurse, right? Or
Yes.
the medical profession. And we also have the different screening questions that would allow us to get more of an idea what may be going on, and also being attentive. And sometimes, we're in a medical setting, but we may need to pivot. Now we are protecting, and giving them that safe space.
Absolutely.
And we do not want to lose any opportunity or miss any opportunity to save another life.
Absolutely. We don't want to miss the opportunity. That's part of the reason why we're having this conversation, so we can make sure that we help save as many lives as possible. Delphine, in your profession, and Sylvia, you're also a therapist. What occurs in your settings when it comes to this issue of domestic violence?
So I want to take it back to my years working with the 0 to 5 age group. In South Florida, particularly in the Broward County area, there was advocacy, right? So when we talk about policy making, advocacy, there was and still is a court system, children's court. And this is the 0 to 5 age group of children who have been witnesses of domestic violence. And the interventions that a therapist would use with that age group is to help us, because it's non-direct play. It's not play therapy in and of itself. Child-parent psychotherapy speaks to recognizing the generational traumas and the generational impacts. Who were the angels and who were the ghosts in the nurseries of the parents? And who are now the angels and the ghosts in the nursery of the children. So it's that recognition that through non-direct play, the child could be taking blocks and just banging them up against each other and just banging them up against each other, tearing up the whole playhouse. And you're supporting the parent in that moment, and not necessarily telling the parent, this is what's happening and this is why it's happening, but from a place of curiosity to support that parent in alignment with their child. So you, clinician, are not the one asserting self, but you are an observer who is curious in your approach with the parent into what they see their child's behaviors are demonstrating. Because parents think, especially of young children, oh, they don't know what's happening. Children are masters. When I say masters at pretending that everything is okay, because in their young minds, they hold some responsibility for what the big people are going through. So if I pretend that I'm okay, mommy, daddy, parents will now feel like everything is okay. These children are very much aware. They recognize when things are out of place. They recognize change in tones, because remember, they are little, looking up at the world, and this world is so huge, and this world doesn't necessarily feel safe, even in their own homes. They recognize the tone, the change in behavior. Mommy came home late, daddy slammed the door, vice versa. They are so in tune. And so in child parent psychotherapy experience, you're able to give that child the opportunity to communicate in the way that they can. And that's typically through play.
Yes, absolutely. Through play for our children. What about our teenagers? How are we advising them? How are we supporting our teenagers who may have observed domestic violence in the home, but also themselves may be in dating relationships that are replicating what they have seen in the home? How are we supporting our teens when it comes to domestic violence? Sylvia?
I think, and I just want to back up and say one of the ways to prevent, or efforts to prevent, is for all of us to realize that domestic violence, that no community is immune, right? That domestic violence occurs in all communities, no matter what the economic, it occurs for those who we want to say might have um, their lifestyle. It's more than another class of people, but it occurs in all environments. And I think once we begin to do that, we will take a closer look, and we won't make an assumption that just because someone has a lot of money, there this thing can't happen, or just because someone is in poverty, that this can happen. It can happen to both levels and everything in between. And so I think part of why we keep missing this is because we're making an assumption that it's not occurring in these homes that are of the elite. But to answer your question in reference to teenagers, I think just from a therapeutic standpoint, is allowing teenagers to kind of show up as they are, because they can. You want to engage them where they are, so you want to make the environment comfortable, that they can share what's going on, provide that support, and sometimes. I've done non-traditional therapy with teenagers where I was playing basketball and they were actually, sharing what they were exposed to. So I think some of it is to allow them to show up in a way that, in whatever works for them, and to listen. And oftentimes we have to be prepared to listen to what they're saying. So, for example, and gender, there's no gender specific here. When you listen to teenagers, oftentimes they're talking about how often they get text messages, or someone following them around in the mall, or when they show up at their class, this person is there. And we have to listen, because oftentimes they think that's cute, right? And they're saying, oh, she loves me, he loves me, everywhere I go. But actually, it can be a very unhealthy, and the first signs to forms of control. And so it is crucial to listen. But I think the main factor with trying to engage teenagers in therapeutic venues is sometimes it can't be that structured, like we're going to do this next, we're going to do that, because they don't really receive that. But when you allow them, even when you allow them to express themselves in whatever way, their language might not be the way that you speak. But when you
Yes.
allow them to just be who they are,
Right.
then you are more likely to be able to engage them and help them to process and see. You
Yeah.
know, I've had teenagers that simply said, okay, that's enough for today.
Mhm.
And I have to respect that and say,
Absolutely.
okay, we're done for today.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. You kind of have to meet teens where they are. We can't make assumptions. We have to develop that safe space that allows them to speak and to be heard. And the fact that you were outside playing basketball is hilarious to me. I hate to tell you.
It was.
I remember one time I was working at a school and the little boy ran up to the girl and hit her and then ran away. And I remember an adult in that environment said, "Oh, he likes her. That's so cute."
Mm-hmm.
I said, let's stop for a second, take a deep breath. Let's call the little boy over. And we had that discussion about how if you like someone, it is not appropriate. It is not acceptable. We will not allow you to hit that person. You may use your words. You may give her a rock as a gift. You may stand beside her until she says, "Leave me alone." But you may not hit her. And I think sometimes in our culture, and I heard you mention earlier, Sylvia, that we need to have these conversations in our churches, in our places that we consider safe, in our organizations. What are we missing in those places where we are allowing this to go on in the congregation? What is it that we need to fill the gap between what is healthy and what is not healthy in relationships?
One, I think we have to be aware. So the congregations or churches have to be aware that they may not have the answer themselves, but being able to, even if that's having someone to come in and speak about domestic violence, speak
Yes.
about intimate partner violence,
Yes.
sermons about intimate partner violence and domestic violence. Those things will help empower someone to make a better decision.
Okay.
The church is known for, and I've been a Christian all my life, but it is known for giving out messages that cause someone to think, particularly a survivor, to believe that it's their fault,
Yes.
right? And messages that you should stay, and divorce is not acceptable, and all of those things where scripture can be used to manipulate individuals. And so I think that we have to do a better job. And I believe that we are learning and we are doing better, but we have to continue to do better, continue to call out individuals, continue to not allow known perpetrators and abusers to serve in roles in church environments.
Yes.
So I think oftentimes we, and we all know, as I just said, any scripture can be used to manipulate any situation.
Yes. Absolutely.
So, yeah, because that the church is supposed to be a safe place.
It is.
And so we can't, and that question why, or just leave, or the judgmental behavior, we have to change that. Change those behaviors.
Absolutely, I agree. I know you zoned in on the church, but I also want to talk about structured organizations, things that are
Belinda,
in our community.
can I
Yes.
talk a bit
Go ahead,
about the
Carol.
church?
Yes.
I attended a church in Columbus, Georgia, and I brought up the idea of domestic violence. And I wanted a ministry in domestic violence. Initially, they said no, and they fought it. And then the following year, they said yes. So we started our domestic violence ministry. We had a huge turnout from all the other churches. They came and we had a presentation from therapists and everything. And they were very happy. And one of the deacons, he told us that, his father, beat his mother. And he was even having, those type of, symptoms. And he said he stopped doing it.
Absolutely. Delphine, I'm sorry. I wanted to
I'm sorry.
hear your remarks.
That's fine. So to Kim's point, when we think about organizations where Kim and Sylvia spotlighted the church, I want us to think about corporate America. Do we have policies in place where a person can take time off without having 11 different questions asked about the reasons that they are taking time off? Are they being mindful of that? Whether it is service organizations, our D9, our Divine 9 organizations, our business organizations, our men's organizations, are we holding men's feet to the fire to say, if you see this in your brother, in your cousin, in your child, are you going to speak up? Are you going to say, no, not this, not now, not ever? Yes. For the godparents who see their godchildren experiencing difficulties in these homes, if for nothing else, think about those children and how you can intervene to stop this type of behavior. It's stopping with them, with the children. When you think about just different spaces, are we advocating appropriately? Are the policies reflective of what it looks like to protect the person who's being victimized? What do the policies at a local level, at a state and national level look like? And I know sometimes we may not necessarily be holding out hope, but I'm encouraging us from every aspect of society to continue to be able to see something and say something. So I'm going to tell you, I had a colleague, an older work auntie, who said that her way of defending her friend was showing up at their house ready to fight the man. And that man came out with a weapon and said, you are on private property. I need you to leave. Yeah. So there are ways that will not necessarily mean full-on confrontation. You can be that person that supports your friend with taking important documents and putting them up, taking money bit by bit and putting it up, taking clothes bit by bit, putting it away. You may be that one that takes the children when necessary. You may be that colleague that steps in and with the permission of your coworker to be able to sit in that room with them as they tell their story. Yes. Because I'm sure Kim would tell you, it wasn't because she had a lack of friends. It wasn't because she had a lack of family members. Her loved ones cared about her. But it's really around her. No, it was really about her recognizing that when she needed to make that decision, she had a safety net to fall back on. The data many, many years ago said that a woman would leave 7 times before she put that final time. I'm not sure how that data is now, but we have to recognize that people are making a decision day in and day out to do right by themselves. It's just a matter of when they finally make that final decision to walk away, will they look to their left and their right and see that people are going to be there for them?
Absolutely. 7 times. Can you imagine? 7 times we have to make sure
7 times
we are supporting men and women that are being abused. There's been a great deal of information shared. I appreciate everyone for telling their personal stories and sharing how you are connected to this topic. That's very important. I want to list a resource. One is the Center for Equitable Access and Treatment of Trauma, also known as Ceatt. You can find them as a resource. The Pauling Institute is a resource. Kim Wright herself, who will be writing a book very soon, is a resource. Jeleine Fertil in the community is working as a public health professional and resource. Mental wellness for the culture is a resource. Before we get off, I want everyone to just share one thing they think is needed to move the needle. One thing that each person that's listening today can actually do in their home, in their community, in their schools, their churches, their organizations. Just one thing that we can challenge them, encourage them, give them the opportunity to do to move the needle when it comes to domestic violence. Kim, what's one thing you could think of that can be done?
Please tell someone.
Please tell someone, a trusted person that can support and help you.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Kim. Thank you for being here tonight. Delphine.
I think it is continuing to be supportive no matter what is happening, to remain supportive.
Remain supportive no matter what's going on, even if that person is going through their 7 times.
Absolutely.
Leaving, going back, leaving, going back. Remain supportive. Tell someone and remain supportive. Thank you so much for being here, Delphine. I know this is a sensitive topic, but I appreciate you for everything that you've done to move the needle. Jeleine Fertil, tell me, what do you think we can do?
I believe in showing the love and just to listen, providing that safe space, you know.
Showing the love and providing a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to need that as we move forward. Men and women are going to need that safe space and to know that they are loved. So thank you so much for that. And thank you for being here tonight. And I want to close with Sylvia. Sylvia's perspective and her work is so unique because she has worked with more perpetrators than anyone else I actually know in this business, the business of psychology, counseling, mental health. So Sylvia, please share what's one thing we can do to move the needle forward.
So I think I'm going to try to couple lines all one thing into with many things. But
Yes,
I think one thing that is crucial for organizations is to have resources, to know resources that because when you open up Pandora's box, to have resources that perpetrators and survivors can use. But I want to end with saying listening to the survivor is crucial.
Yes.
It is crucial because they know the perpetrator better than anyone else. And what research has showed us is that the ultimate form of control is death. And so that is why it is crucial for that. If that individual says he's going to kill me if I leave, you have to believe that that is what is going to take place. Absolutely. So hearing the voice of the survivor, don't minimize that voice.
Absolutely. Hearing the voice of the survivor, not minimizing that voice, having that safe place, making sure we have our resources. Every organization that we talked about today should have resources available to share, distribute, make known, bring into the organization so that this conversation continues and people that are experiencing abuse know that we in the community are here as a support. We acknowledge them. We want to make sure that they live and we want to give them the support they need to continue and get to a place where they are thriving. Thank y'all so much for offering your perspectives, your stories. Thank you to Ceatt. Thank you to the culture. Thank you to the Pauling Institute for being here and being part of this conversation. I tell you, we have to continue this conversation. And the only thing that we're missing are our brothers. And we will have to pull them into this conversation next time. Until then, thank you so much. And this is a special edition of Mental Wellness for the Culture. Everyone, Take care.